off. So
okay, I got it.
So now it's recording, and I'm going to mute myself so my computer doesn't make any noises.
Thanks, Nicole. Hi, thanks for joining us. My name is Jess Nichols, and I work for the Early Childhood Grant that is funded through the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction's Special Education team. And we're going to talk briefly about comprehensive evaluation for special education. So the Department of Public Instruction has been working on a framework for comprehensive evaluation, and I just wanted to highlight today a few of those bullet points related to that framework. And the first is probably the most important, and this is the idea that evaluation for special education is really designed to identify the strengths and needs of the individual child and determine eligibility for special education. And in order to do so, according to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, special education evaluations must be sufficiently comprehensive for IEP teams to determine eligibility, whether it's new or ongoing, and to identify the educational needs of the individual child, whether or not those needs are commonly linked to a student's identified disability category or the referral, the area that we're concerned about the child's development in. So this is really that shift away from focusing on a label and into really looking at what are the individual needs of the child as a whole, so the whole child. So for example, just a real quick example, if we have concerns about a child's language development, we can make a referral for a special education or an evaluation for special education services, and we would certainly include evaluation that, or we would design an evaluation that includes a speech and language pathologist and looks at the child's language. But we would also have to look at the entire child's ability to function and their development as a whole child. So there's no such thing as a speech and language referral or a speech and language evaluation. We wouldn't look at only the development of the child's speech and language. We would look at the whole child's development. So the next interesting bullet that we want to just talk about briefly is to reiterate this idea that evaluation is a process. It's not an event. It isn't a one-time sit down and look at a set of scores type of thing. It is really dynamic. And in a sufficient comprehensive evaluation, the IEP team participants work together to really explore, problem solve, and make decisions about eligibility for special education services. Then, if found eligible, that IEP team uses the information gathered during that evaluation process to collectively develop the content of the student's IEP. So it's really ongoing. And what we like to see is the team comes together, they make a plan for the evaluation, individual team members go out and conduct their pieces of the evaluation. And when the team comes back together and they look at that collective set of information, if they are then able to identify holes still in understanding the child's development and functioning and strengths and needs, they can go back and continue that evaluation, collect and gather more data or information that would help inform their decision-making process. We know that a sufficient comprehensive evaluation actively engages families throughout that entire process and is always ensuring a high level of value is placed on parents and families and caregivers as the experts of the child. We know that developmentally and educationally relevant questions can really help enhance and guide the evaluation. And so we're working to help support IEP team members in their ability to understand how to design these questions that are specific to each evaluation and really help us learn more about the individual and unique strengths and needs of each child during the evaluation process. We know that utilizing culturally responsive data is critical in our process. One way that we ensure that our evaluations are conducted in a culturally responsive way is to engage in the process of dynamic assessment, and ensuring that the assessment tools as well as the strategies that we're using to evaluate individual young children especially is really responsive to the culture of the child and of the family. When we look at data, we know that a single source of data is not sufficient to determine eligibility for special education services. And so we're really looking at a comprehensive set of data that's collected from multiple sources in multiple environments, multiple ways. And this would really include medical information and diagnoses, but it is not exclusive to that. So for example, if a child has a medical diagnosis of autism and there's a referral made to the school to see if the child is eligible for special education services, that IEP team, which includes the family, may have access to that medical report if the parent chooses to share it. But they would also sit down as a team and determine what additional information would be necessary to determine sufficient comprehensive evaluation of the child's strengths and needs, and then apply that information to the criteria necessary for determining special education eligibility. And the last bullet that I'd like to just talk about briefly with you is that the comprehensive evaluation really does serve as the foundation of the child's IEP. So if the child is found eligible for special education, the team will come together and describe the services and supports necessary for the child to thrive as a learner. And when the comprehensive evaluation information is done in a manner that really looks at the whole child and includes data sources and information in all domains of development and from multiple sources of data, like we just talked about, then we are able to sufficiently identify the needs of the students, the educational needs of the students, and determine then from that set of information and data what supports and services are appropriate and necessary on the IEP. And that is a quick lightning round overview of the Department of Public Instruction's framework for comprehensive evaluation for special education.